I will show you how great Salesforce can be. As an end user, you'll have one window, one tab. It will be Salesforce. Everything will be done there. Pretty much everything you want to do can be done on Salesforce.
Welcome to Salesforce Radio, your destination for insights, news, and community connections within the dynamic Salesforce ecosystem. Welcoming today to Salesforce Radio, Eric Praud, another Salesforce MVP we're very excited to talk to and learn a little bit about what you've done in the ecosystem and a little bit of your journey. So Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Ben. Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Always a pleasure. And you're going to be the first guest from your specific part of the world. So tell us a little bit about the Salesforce community, where you are, and a little bit of your story of how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So I landed in Ireland back in 97, but realistically, I started working with Salesforce only, 14 years ago or something like that. And there's actually quite a vibrant community here in Ireland, mostly in Dublin, obviously, with a few user groups. We meet once in a while, obviously. And yeah, that's it at a very, very high level.
And you're originally from Dublin area, or where are you from originally?
No, I'm actually a French guy. I used to work in catering, and then I decided to come to Ireland first, and then never left. And eventually, things happened, and I ended up being in IT and eventually in Salesforce.
Wow! So you ended up in Ireland because of catering?
Yeah.
Very interesting. So what was that transition like? So you catering to IT to Salesforce, and now you're sitting there, I'm looking at you with the Salesforce MVP hoodie on. You've cemented your place within the ecosystem clearly. So it's got to be a good story. I want to get some of it.
Yeah, okay. So in France, it's a bit different, like the way schools and colleges go. But so I got a catering living cert. And then, 2 days after I got my results, I decided to come to Ireland. I mean, it was already in the back of my mind, I had come here with my school, loved it. So anyway, decided to come here, worked out quite well. So that was back in 97. Yeah, that's how old I am. And so worked in catering for about 13 years, mostly in Ireland. But the good thing about that job is that it made me travel quite a bit, like the US, Canada, Switzerland, and so on. But I always ended up coming back here. And then there was the big recession back in 2008, and it became very difficult to work in restaurants, like very, very long hours, not enough staff, badly paid, the whole thing. So, I had enough of it. And I was 30 years old at that time. So I'm like, okay, it's now or never. Okay, I can change career now and go in IT. Like I kind of knew about computers. I'm like, I can do that. They're always looking for people that can speak English and another language. So I ended up working for the IT department in a pharmaceutical company. And I had a 6-month contract. So I was looking for a job while I had this new job, and a friend of mine knew of a job in Salesforce support. Never heard of Salesforce at that point. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. I went and everything went so well. I really liked it pretty much from day one. So then I decided to continue, I became a consultant and kept on going from then on.
That's really cool. So your introduction to IT was Salesforce, basically.
It was, yes, pretty much. I had, as I said, one little job before that was like 6 months, and that was like pure IT. I was okay at that, but Salesforce was so much better. At least there's something that clicked in my head, and I could understand it. Well, what
do you think it was?
Salesforce.
What do you think clicked in your head for you in Salesforce? What was the thing that made it happen?
You know what? I'm not too sure. I just know that maybe after 6 months, and like any new job, like you got this learning curve, and usually it does take 6 months. And after the 6 months, I could see that I could answer most questions, when customers were calling. I really enjoyed anything that had to do with formulas. Like I'm a really math geek, 1 and 1 is 2, never 11, that kind of way. And it just everything happened, it's like Lego, and it all clicked together. Don't know, something happened. My head is a bit weird sometimes, so it's hard to explain.
Yeah, and when you came into that org, now looking back, I mean, we're now, I guess, it was in 2008 or 2010 that you started with Salesforce?
2010, yeah, 14 years ago. So yeah, 2010.
So 14 years ago. Obviously, Salesforce looked radically different in many ways. The core idea of Salesforce, I think, was similar or the same as a lot of the reasons people come to Salesforce today are the same reasons that people were going to it back then, plus more. But looking back, tell me about the org that you were in then. Like when you look back at it, what was it? Was it a fairly simple setup for the org? Was there things there that are so obviously wrong that you think of today? What are your thoughts back to that time and getting in Salesforce and what that looked like now?
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't have any org as such because since I was in support, I was looking at other people's orgs. But yeah, Salesforce was very different back then. First, we were in Salesforce Classic, and a lot of options did not even exist. I mean, there was only two clouds at that time. It was Sales and Service Clouds, and that was it. I remember things like flows being acquired and things like that like ages ago. So yes, I guess orgs were a lot easier to understand. There was a lot less going on. Now you need to have a lot more experience than at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine coming in to Salesforce and you're saying, after you said about 6 months, you can answer pretty much all the questions. Today, if you came into a pretty, developed org, let's say, it would take a long time to get your head around all, but especially if you don't have any experience in Salesforce. So you had a bit of an advantage of, it being 2010 and things are a little bit more simple, let's say, or at least less complex. I don't need to call it simple, we'll call it less complex in the way that they were set up. Who were the users that you were supporting in that org? What were their roles? Was it mostly sales and support, or was it both? Was there anything kind of interesting and different that they were doing there?
Yeah, so it was mostly administrators actually that would call support. Sometimes you had end users, but it was very rare. There were some weird ones and some funny ones as well. But I remember like one guy. He was a French guy, and he called at least once a week. But he loved the platform. It was like, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. And then the same week, I would usually get another person that again would call every week that hated Salesforce. Then it doesn't do anything I want. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, it was an adventure. Like support. Anybody who's worked in technical support knows like it's always an adventure. A bit of sarcasm there, but.
Yeah, exactly. And an adventure into your own ghosts in the closet to see, how much can you handle, dealing with all the different people in different parts and trying to figure things out, even if you're not doing the problem solving, just the triage between different people and trying to figure out their issues and getting, approval for a fix or something like that. It can be a lot. What was the point where you said, okay, I'm starting to feel kind of invested in this platform. I'm starting to feel invested in Salesforce. Was there a certain turning point that you remember, or was it kind of just a gradual process?
I say it's a gradual process, pardon me. But at the same time, I could see people that, were hired roughly at the same time as me, and they all started to leave to go to either a system administrator job or consultancies. And, after a while, I was like, well, you know what? I can do it too. So, at that time, I started to get quite a few people on LinkedIn, like, following me and asking if I wanted a job. So eventually I ended up answering to those people. I mean, I would always answer, but it was always a no, I'm happy where I am and all. And then, I decided to go for it and found a job in London as a consultant. So I had to leave Dublin, move to London, but I was actually very lucky because a colleague of mine that I got on very well with got a job in London as well at the same time. So we ended up sharing an apartment and all. So it was a lot of fun. And then, as I said, I keep going back to Dublin. So in the same job, they had an office in Dublin. So I asked if I could, move back. They said yes. So I just keep them. Ireland is always is like a magnet. And then all my jobs after that were in Dublin.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you went from kind of that first job to being a consultant. Obviously, also the consultant landscape was very different 12 years ago or however many years ago it was, 14 years ago at this point. what did you learn being a consultant, and how did that kind of develop your relationship further with Salesforce?
Right. Yeah. So it was a big difference. As I said, all my studies were done about catering. Now, I learned Salesforce, I got the certifications, but, it was really, I got all that on the job. And here I am as a consultant, and I'm told about agile methodology. I remember this word, agile methodology. I'm like, what is that? And somebody gave me a crash course, like no joke, no more than 5 minutes. And I'm just like, I still don't understand. I do not understand what this is about. So to me, that was like my first, what am I doing here moment. But then, the good thing in that company, unfortunately, they don't exist anymore. They were very good at training. So I was always, at the beginning, always following people. I was never left on my own in a project, which helped a lot. And little by little, they realized that I was, I could, I guess, fly with my own wings. And then eventually you wake up one day and you're like, oh God, I'm actually the lead BA on the project. Like, what happened there? But no, it's a great feeling. But yeah, again, learning curve and all, it worked out in the end.
And how long did you stay in consulting before you went back to working in-house?
Yeah, so I was in consulting. So the first time, I was in consulting for about 5 years. And then I went in-house like as an end user for about 2.5 years. Then back to consulting. And I've got a new job. I've had a new job for the past 2 months with an end user. So again, you just keep switching back and forth. It's good to have a bit of both, There's pros and cons in both jobs. So great.
Yeah, it's been a theme on this podcast. I think a lot of people who didn't start out in consulting maybe didn't even know what it was, and then end up consulting. And a lot of people have said, hey, the advice they've given on this podcast is, if you're listening to this, go try and be a consultant, be a consultant for a little bit, learn what it's like to be a consultant. And I think it's funny that you mentioned, I have a similar story about hearing about, the agile methodology for the first time and being like, oh, I didn't know this was a novel idea. I didn't know this was a unique thing, agile methodology. But of course, as we know, when you're doing these big projects, it's so important to really know what you're doing from the outset. And I think, we've all seen consultants that really know what they're doing and consultants that have no idea what they're doing and think, hey, I'm just going to open up a little consulting shop and let's see how it goes. And all of a sudden they're, buried under their work. They can't deliver for their clients. And soon enough, they're done. But that's not usually the success story. But the success story a lot of times is, hey, I was in consulting. I went back. I came back. I learned more. I did more. I furthered myself in the ecosystem, and it's always cool to hear about that, especially someone who's coming from a background like yours in catering. Now it's a very long time ago. To go from that to Salesforce to being a tech consultant when you're doing on-sites and things like that. Today the landscape's a little bit different, right? You can be a consultant pretty much from anywhere and not even necessarily meet the client face to face. But what's it like today to be, in an org, to be working for an end user? What does that org look like?
Right now, maybe it's still the honeymoon phase. As I said, I started just over 2 months ago, but I'm really enjoying being back at an end user. I'm lucky enough that this org is pretty new, so it's great. I can kind of mold it, with just the way I kind of want to, when it comes to like security and having like methodologies of flows and stuff like that. It's very busy. As a consultant, there's usually quite a big team. I guess it depends on the size of the consultancy, but there's usually a team with you, so you can rely on those people. At the moment, I'm a one-man band in my org, so it's really, I feel like a big juggler, trying to juggle between enhancements and issues that arise. But I think I'm doing okay. I hope I'm doing okay. And really enjoy it. As I said, it's still a very new org. We've got about 250 employees. About 200 of them are on Salesforce. So it's not big, but big enough to start thinking about maybe someone else, to help.
And so is that, when you get into an org, now you're a seasoned vet when it comes to Salesforce. when you get into something like this, and I don't know if you've been in this position before, where you're in kind of an org in a new organization, or an org in an organization that's new to using Salesforce. What's your goal? Like, do you see yourself as, hey, I'm coming in here to show them that Salesforce is a powerful tool that they're going to be able to get return on investment from, and we're going to grow this footprint? Or is it to say, I'm going to show you how to keep Salesforce lean and grow your business, by using it? Like, what's your relationship to the business and then to Salesforce within that role?
I say mostly of the foremost. Now, of course, there's always a gray area, but so any company that starts with Salesforce for the first time, or any software or application, there's a big change management piece. People don't like change. It's just, it's in our DNA. I don't know what happened way back when, but we don't like change. So people, as usually, they're like, oh, Salesforce, it's okay, but, I prefer my old system, and it was working fine. Why did we change, So to me, straight away, that's the greatest challenge of all. It's like, I will show you how great Salesforce can be. Yeah, right now, maybe you've got like an MVP or something, very lean, but I will show you that pretty much everything you want to do can be done on Salesforce. Yeah. I mean, it's integrations and all, but for you as an end user, you have one window, one tab. It will be Salesforce. Everything will be done there. So it comes like, little by little, obviously. Like, you can't there's no magic wand to make it happen in one go. But, when you start showing them very little things, like, I usually start with the quick wins, the ones that, oh God, I didn't know you could do that. Like, I know in this company that I'm working for, I just did something simple. They had Chatter, they used Chatter, but I did, they never received an email when they were contacted, and also they were always on that Chatter wall trying to sift through all the messages. And it's just turn the emails on for Chatter, like something that is done in 20 seconds, and people loved it. And it's all those little wins. And then, of course, like in the background, you talk to all the stakeholders for the bigger projects, but try to get the end users with you, as well as the stakeholders. It's not all about the stakeholders, and you'll see, like, eventually, I know that everybody will love it.
I love that optimism. That's amazing. That's great. Yeah, and I hear it a lot because I get involved in a lot of projects. As you can imagine, people are coming to me to say, hey, yeah, either there's a few different scenarios. One is, we've been using Salesforce for a long time. We need to replace some functionality that we're getting with another vendor. We want to look at new options. That's one scenario. Great, easy. The next is we, are using Salesforce. We want to do something new, right? So we're coming to you. The third is, okay, we started using Salesforce however many months ago. We thought we were getting X, Y, and Z. Turns out we're only getting X and Z. We need that Y. And now we're being told we need to pay for another service, or we need to develop it in-house or get a developer. Basically, we're being told that we need to pay more money for something that we thought we were already getting. Let's go. And so how do you manage expectations? What do you do? How did you work with this implementation to manage the expectations of the org and say, hey, this is what Salesforce is. This is what Salesforce maybe isn't, but this is what Salesforce could be if we go down the path that I am trying to, push on you guys.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very open question. A very open-ended question. Yeah, it's not always easy, to be fair. That's when you need to have a very good relationship with your stakeholders. You really remember what you promise. If you promise something, you've got to achieve. So make sure you don't overpromise is the first thing I would do. And make sure you talk with experience as well. This is what I did in this company, and this is what happened in the end. And that's why I'm recommending, this approach. Whichever it is, it could be an add-on or it could be let's build it in-house. There's so many, details at play. So, whether you need one or the other approach. But yeah, I'd say earn the trust of your stakeholders, and don't only talk the talk, like walk the walk as well. If you promise something, make sure you deliver, and if you don't deliver, then make sure you have good reasons. You document the reasons why you couldn't deliver as expected, and try to learn from your mistakes as well.
Yeah, I think that's and I always wonder, like, who was it that oversold the solution, right? When I speak to those people, it's like, was it Salesforce who did it? Because Salesforce is great at selling their product. Doesn't mean that everything's always 100% clear to the end user, or the person that's purchasing it. Or was it the consultant? Was it the in-house person? Because people are confused. There's so much that Salesforce can do, and there really isn't any limitations. But to get from point A to B, there could be a lot of work. It could be years of work in between until you get to that functionality that you think that you're looking for. You might need to do so many steps in between. And it's always great to speak to someone like you, who's a seasoned vet, who comes into an org, a fresh org, and you're doing all of it. I mean, have you had to contract any work out, in this org to other people? Or you've really done everything yourself?
So there was a consultancy when I arrived. They had started to implement Salesforce like an MVP. So the sales department was already on Salesforce, and they were working on the operations department when I arrived. And so they were there for maybe the first month I was there, and now it's all on me. So as I said, it goes from enhancements to teaching the company how to test properly. I'm actually teaching them at the moment the agile methodology, for enhancements, because it's still a small company that is growing very rapidly, and they're very used to just go to your desk and, oh, can you do this for me? And I'm like, yeah, in 2 months, write a ticket, and it's obviously not to annoy them. It's just to have some kind of structure. But so sorry, I went on a tangent here, but yes, so there were consultants that started the project, but then I took over. So at the moment, I don't need any, but that doesn't mean I won't hire any more in the future.
Tell us a little bit about being a Salesforce MVP, and I guess maybe your interaction with Salesforce, and kind of how you view yourself as an emissary, let's call it, of Salesforce, and how you became a Salesforce MVP and what that journey looked like.
All right, the easiest of your questions here is how I became an MVP. So we all know the answers community, the Salesforce answers community, and I started to answer a lot of questions there. And the reason for it is, I remember when I started, and we talked about it, but Salesforce was a lot easier. But I used this community a lot. Of course, like we all know, Steve Moe, he saved my butt so many times, with these crazy forwarders. So anyway, I started answering a lot of questions there, and I guess it became a kind of addictive. So the more I was answering, and the more I answered. And so Salesforce recognized it. I got nominated by a few people that I helped, I guess. And then Salesforce recognized it. And that's how I became an MVP, which I am very proud of. I was so not expecting it. And I remember one day getting the email, and I was like jumping everywhere. I was like a kid, in a candy shop, and it was just, you got an email, and like, stop, calm down, But, it's huge. Now, I feel that, as an MVP, you have quite a bit of responsibility, though. The first one is to carry on transferring your knowledge. Yeah, to me, that's very important. I always try to remember that there was a stage, and I'm still at that stage, but there was a stage where I really knew nothing about Salesforce, and I needed help, and I got the help I needed. And so, I always try to remember that I've got to transfer the knowledge I've got. And now, look, I'm still learning, and everybody's still learning, also Salesforce being the monster that it is now. But I just, I really like helping new people. Yes, so this, and, it's, let's be honest, as an MVP, you're also a little bit of an advertising pawn for them, but that's in a bad way. Like, it sounds terrible the way I said it, but, yeah, a pawn. Sorry, Salesforce. No, but it's more, when you present yourself as a Salesforce MVP, you also have that responsibility. Now you're representing the company you work for, but you're also representing a little bit of Salesforce here, and you're representing the MVP program and so on. So there's a bit of responsibility. Now it's not that heavy. It's not as if I'm sweating every day. Oh my God, what am I going to do? But
put on that hoodie. Put on the hoodie, and the heat's on.
Yeah, exactly. No, but look, it's a great honor. I'm part of a group of people that are, every time I've got imposter syndrome every day. I feel like they all know so much more than I do. And, when I manage to answer one of their questions, I'm like, yes, I helped an MVP, I helped the Salesforce MVP.
Yeah.
So now it's great. Like I said, we all help each other. We all have tips and tricks and, how did you do this? How did you do that? So yeah, great place to be.
And what year did you officially become a Salesforce MVP?
So it was 4 years ago. So 2020 was the first year.
2020. Wow. So, and that was during the pandemic or at the beginning?
It was during the pandemic. Yes, I remember it was during the pandemic. Because it was the first year what they did, because, in order to be an MVP, you need to be helping others, but there's also like a lot of, speakers at events. And a lot of people could not go to events, obviously, because of the pandemic. So it was the first year that they renewed all the MVPs and they added some, including myself.
Wow. So part of it is speaking, it sounds like, and going to different events and speaking. So I know that, you mentioned in the beginning, there's a lot of users, a lot of user groups in Dublin. It's an interesting place to be, I guess, Dublin, because you have a lot of also companies that are there because it's a great place to do business. What's it like to be in a place where, not everyone is there because they're like you and they just love Dublin, but because they're there for business? How are you able to really use that to your advantage and kind of work with different companies from around the world and different user groups and things like that? What's it look like from there?
Well, so yeah, as you said, Dublin, we've got the HQ of so many companies for many different reasons, but that includes the Salesforce HQ. So we are at a great advantage. We have a lot of resources from Salesforce there. And therefore there's a huge user base in Ireland. I mean, you don't compare it to the user base like in France or whatever. We're still a small country. Well, when you look at the, ratio, I guess, of Salesforce professionals versus population, it's quite big. So yes, we are very privileged to have all those people that can help us and, that are interested in the product as well. So yeah, plenty, I talked a few times, mostly at the Dublin user group, but Dublin admin group, pardon. Yeah, just it's just great place to be. As you said, many companies use Salesforce, and a lot of them are here.
Yeah, and it's cool because I think before I was in the Salesforce ecosystem, I didn't realize what a hub of international business Dublin is, and now that I am, you speak to so many people that are based out of Ireland for basically strictly business reasons. It's cool that you ended up there just as part of kind of your catering career. And whenever I think of people going from the service industry to Salesforce, I always think back to COVID because there were so many of those stories about, hey, I was a part of the service industry. It's shut down now, and now I found a new home in Salesforce. Were you able to be involved with anyone's, kind of transition over to the Salesforce ecosystem during that time when you became an MVP and people were kind of pouring over into Salesforce?
To be fair, I'm not too sure. I know a lot of people have asked me about, they wanted to find a job. So I tried to help them. It's not always easy. I know that some people that, I've helped on the community, they've, they're very new in this. Well, they were very new in the Salesforce ecosystem. There's a few people that I talked to on LinkedIn that I mentored on LinkedIn, and, they were looking for a job, and I had them, with, what to expect from an interview, how to, what to put forward, what not to say as well. It's also important. Things like that, So, yes, I guess I have helped some people, but more like indirectly, more than, I didn't just put them in front of an interviewer,
Of course. Yeah, that would never be the best way to do things. No. What are you currently excited about? What's getting you excited in 2024 at Salesforce? And kind of, obviously you're working in your own org now, and I'm sure it's pretty time consuming, but what are some of the things that you think we should be looking out for this year?
Oh, this year, right. I mean, if you're into flows this year and last year as well, there have been great years. Like there's been so much happening on flows, and I'm a fantastic.
Sure.
This year, I mean, obviously Dreamforce coming up all the user groups, the dreaming events, they're very exciting. There's quite a few happening, from now on. I mean, there were a few, like three. I met you guys in Portugal Dreaming a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, there's all that. And, to be fair, there's another thing I'm very excited about. It's that we are doing the first Irish Dreaming in early 2025 as well. So that is super, super exciting. Just before St. Patrick's Day. Sorry, doing a little bit of promo here.
No, first off, I want to hear more about that. Tell me about the story, how you got to getting Irish Dreaming out. And you said it's St. Patrick's Day?
Just before, yeah, we'll do it on the 13th of March.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, very cool. 13th of March, 2025. Good chance I'll have to come for that. It will be my first time in Ireland. So,
well, there you go. Yeah, you have to. You have to, definitely.
Oh, I love that. And how was the Portugal Dreaming event? I wasn't there, but I know a bunch of my team was there.
Mm-hmm. It was brilliant. So it was their first dreaming event, and they organized such a show. Like, it was just brilliant. First, we had the weather with us. I mean, the keynote was outdoors. Like, just that was like, wow, it's great, Plenty of speakers, plenty of great speakers. There were great speakers, and then there was me. And yeah, a lot of they just organized a very, very good event. It's the first time, so you always expect hiccups and little things that don't go their way.
Sure.
And genuinely, I cannot fault them. If something went wrong, they didn't show it, and it just didn't appear. So very well done to this Portugal Dreaming team. They were just brilliant. And yeah, as I said, yeah, I saw a few of your colleagues there. A lot of fun. They're funny.
That's great. And can you give us a little teaser of what people should expect for the Irish Dreaming event?
Yeah, we're still in the process of organizing the whole thing. So
maybe tell us your dream. Tell us your dream for what it should look like.
It's going to be a dreaming event. So obviously, it's all about Salesforce. What we're really looking forward to. Great speakers, but we want them for administrators, developers, not for profit. We want to try to give access to a lot of people there. We want to be eco-responsible, no plastic cups, things like that. But we're still ironing things out. So I just don't want to talk too much about it with all my colleagues here. But yeah, really looking forward to it. We're getting there slowly but surely.
That's very exciting, and it's so cool how every year a number of these events are popping up, and most of them are coming back for a second year and a third year because people are so happy to be able to connect with people close to them, but also people are traveling for these events, which makes it so fun. And you get that kind of international crowd at all the different events and all the different places you go. Cool. Well, it's been really nice speaking with you. Anything else that you want to maybe touch on and or maybe plug in the year 2024? Getting towards 2025 already. We're already more than halfway through the year. You're getting towards a quarter of a century mark over here, which basically means Salesforce is a little bit more than a quarter of a century old. Once we get to that point, and what are you looking forward to beyond those events? And I guess you said flow things are pretty a lot's happening with flows this year. Will you be at Dreamforce?
Unfortunately, I won't. No, I can't make it this year. There's a few personal commitments. Maybe one day, because what? I've actually never been to Dreamforce. I just, either never had the chance, or when I did, something happened that I couldn't make it. So, we'll see maybe next year. And, you're asking what I'm excited about. It's just, the journey is continuing, and that's exciting enough to me. That's actually the excitement. This new job, that's super exciting to me. Try to get them where I want them to be by the end of the year. I don't know if it's where I want them to be, but getting closer to the goal anyway by the end of the year. All that is exciting to me, and can't wait to see what Salesforce has to offer. We're going to get some more surprises from them. Most of the Dreamforce, there's always something. So we'll see.
Well, I think that's a great place to leave it. As you said, the journey continues, and that really is the most exciting thing. I'm basically going to be moving into my 5th year in the ecosystem very soon, which is exciting for me as well. It's been an awesome journey so far, and always great to connect with fellow Salesforce enthusiasts and people who've really accomplished a lot over the time they've been involved with the platform. So Eric, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate having you on Salesforce Radio. And for everyone listening, I hope to see you at Ireland Dreaming next year.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Salesforce Radio. Don't forget to subscribe for more exciting discussions, expert tips, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders. Stay connected with Titan, plus the power of the planet's leading CRM. See you next time.